Well, good evening, everyone. It's Alex here. And well, the show has started, and I have a guest with us today, a really good friend of mine, Noel Lee. I think you guys are very familiar with him, otherwise known as Caliber Wings. I'm just going to do a sound, and let's do a sound test, guys. Let me know how my sound is. And also let me know if you can see me. I'm in the remote office in actually Chengdu as we speak. And I thought, without further ado, we're going to bring on Noel Lee onto the program. Wow, Noel Lee, great to have you. Where did you go? Here you are. Good to have you, sir. Thank you for joining the show tonight, Noel. How are you?
Hey, Alex, thank you for having me back on this live stream. Really appreciate it. I am actually doing very well, apart from a couple of weeks ago, I had a bit of a bad cold and I was coughing my way for like 3 weeks, but I'm good so far. Not COVID. And yeah, how about yourself?
You know, it's funny. Every time if I get I had the sniffles the last couple of days here, and I thought, well, maybe, just maybe. Well, it doesn't take long to figure out that you don't have COVID here in China because, well, we get tested a lot. And
Yeah, that's right.
here in Chengdu, we're getting tested every day. And I was just about to get into details about the testing. We might as well start to talk about it. People say that in other countries, wow, that must be a major inconvenience for you, or what a distraction, or, oh, isn't that going overboard? Let's think about this for a minute here. I use my phone very clearly, click an app, walk up to another person's phone who is, we'll call it the first line. That's right, the green QR code. We show the phone. Our QR code gets quickly scanned. The information goes to the health authorities. They say, right, you're here at 8:06 p.m. On Wednesday. They have the information. You proceed another 10 meters advanced. The NAT test, we're talking the NAT test, which is hundreds of dollars in other countries, hundreds of dollars. Goes in, 6-7 hours later, notification comes up on your phone, negative, end of story. Now, is China going to get rid of that? If you ask me, no. Are they going to keep that in place for years to come? My opinion, yes. And why not? It works. It's not detrimental to the people that live in this country. The country has actually got used to this style of mass testing using contact tracing apps. Now, our Western friends will say, well, you know, it's a privacy issue. I think if you could take the numbers of China and compare them to 186 other countries around the world that had the let it rip policy, where they just let COVID run wild, who are they to give China advice? Maybe you can tell us about your experience through this pandemic here in China. And this 1 hour or 1.5 hour program is going to be about when is China open, and we will answer your questions to the best of our ability. And remember, this is just our opinion on what we think living here. How are things going to move forward from that? Go ahead, Noel.
Well, thanks, Alex. So I have been in China mainland since February the 3rd, 2020. And it's been like 2 years and more and counting. So everybody's asking the question, when is China opening up? All right. And the fact is that we don't know. That is the answer. We don't know.
True. Very true.
People who are commentators of this situation would give their predictions. You know, some would say that it's this year, some would say it's next year, and then they have their reasons for it. So for what I've been hearing so far, it seems like the most credible prediction is likely going to be around the end of next year. Now, why? It's because, you know, there is this mRNA vaccine for the Omicron variant that is, I guess, in very advanced stages of development. I think in the US it's already approved, and in China it is like going through, I think, animal trials. I'm not sure about the human trials yet. So once this vaccine is credible and the Chinese government, especially Zhong Nansan, right? If he says it's good to go, it's good to go. So if this comes to pass, then we will definitely have a good chance, right? A good chance of China opening up by the end of 2023, because once this vaccine is inoculated to the people in China, then they are pretty much already the most resilient in terms of this particular virus. Now, with that said, it's still a what if. We don't know. The fact of the matter is we don't know, but we can only hope, because the world is suffering if China doesn't open up. They already said that if China sneezes, the world catches a cold, right? It's like that. So right now, when China is closed up, the world, in terms of the supply chain, in terms of everything else, is just suffering. So I'm also hearing a lot from the financial sectors. Why the longer China doesn't open, this is just going to get down the drain. Your thoughts,
No,
Alex?
yeah, I'm gonna rain on your parade here.
Okay.
I'm more optimistic, I think, than saying the end of next year. But then we can clarify. We can go into details on what that really means by open. Does that mean the grand opening for all the tourists, or does that mean the opening for university students? Now, here's a message to a lot of the people out there. A lot of universities have been sending out notices to nationals all around the world to come back to China. That was announced a few weeks ago. Some students are getting notifications from their consulates abroad. Okay, guys, get a flight, get back here, school's opening. So we're seeing that push happen. We're seeing the relaxation of the PU letter, which was needed for a lot of business visas to come back. That's starting to get relaxed. So we're seeing a gradual open. Now, you did mention possible the end of next year. I'm going to have to say, I think it's going to come down to the 20th National Congress meeting on October the 16th. This is a big day that everyone in their calendar needs to put that big circle around. Forget what you're doing that day. Doesn't matter what country you're in. This is going to affect everyone. And I mean everyone. You might say, well, I'm not in China. It doesn't matter. Listen, guys, the world is not open yet. You might think it's open in your countries, Europe and North America, the collective West. You might think it's open, but it's not open until 1.5 billion people take that key, turn it over, and then it's open. So what I'm saying is the October 16th, this might be the first time for many of you to actually pay attention to the October 16th meeting in Beijing. This is where over 93 million party members are going to make the decision of China the next 5 years. Now, Noel, you did say the end of next year. You might be right, but I'm going to bet that I think it's going to come down to some of these SARs, like Hong Kong, like Macau. I think we're going to see these become an extremely important part of people first that want to get back to China. Let's say the family members, the relationship people that want to get married, the immediate family members. Then let's not, calling them tourists is not the right way to say it, but there's a lot of people still displaced. Tourists are the people that I think do it last minute, come to travel because they want to discover the country. I'm talking the first wave of people that need to get back into this country are the family, the close friends, the people that are conducting business here, the people that have businesses here, the people that want to, visit their factories. Maybe they were locked out. Visit that fiance that maybe they didn't get married, or visit their children or grandchildren or parents of whoever, or in-laws. I think Hong Kong is going to be, we'll call it like a hub. Hong Kong will come in. The mainlanders will be allowed to travel to Hong Kong and come back into the mainland. And of course, people abroad from all other nations will be able to come into Hong Kong, do that quarantine, and maybe come into China with their relatives. Now, let's not underestimate how well China has done on its contact tracing app. For example, the Chinese might say, great, we may open the tourist market in January or February. We might. This is just my opinion. But for you to become a tourist in China, you need to follow our protocol of preventing, major cases of COVID. Now that means you have to download an app. Ooh, that's tough. You're going to have to take part in COVID tests. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm currently staying at a hotel in downtown Chengdu. Notable name, the Ritz-Carlton, and they have testing stations on location. How hard is it? Click the elevator button, level floor, 10 meters out the door, show your phone, scan, come back in, 6 hours later, you're fine. Now, is that a lot to ask tourists to come back into the country? If China has had success for it with the country closed, I think they could have success for it with the country open. And I don't think many people, if people have a problem with that, then don't come to China. That's just the way it's going to be, guys. Anyway, over to you. What do you think?
I think you mentioned lots of points there, Alex. And I want to just trace back to when you first asked the first question about how inconvenience or is not, right, of all these testing.
Right.
I just got my second testing done yesterday. So that just now you saw my code, it's 24 hours. So that means I had my test done within the last 24 hours. And it is just right downstairs in my neighborhood. And even if I ventured out about less than 800 meters, there's another testing station. And there's testing stations left and right. So just like how there is no excuse for your phone to run out of battery, right? In today's context, there's no excuse to not be around a testing center in China. But, so my personal feeling is that when you mentioned earlier in the show that, people might regard this kind of process to be very authoritative and invasion of privacy and all these things. Again, all since the beginning of time, we know that there is a difference between Western and Eastern cultures, and that's the way it is. The West don't dine with chopsticks, and in the East they don't dine with like fork and knives. So that's just what it is. It's as simple as that. There's no need to say that it is an invasion or what. Just when you are in another person's house, you follow the house rules. If you're in a pub, right, you have to follow that pub's rules anyway. So that is that. And then coming back to all these tests, it is so convenient. But like I said, you mentioned those few points. It's going to be a logistical nightmare, in my opinion, to have tourists do these things on their phone, because even now, as foreigners in China, we can't, scan the QR code and get ourselves locked into the position. That's what the entire country is doing. Before you enter a mall, before you enter a place, you scan and they know that you've been there. But this function, for some reason, doesn't work for foreigners. It still doesn't. It still shows up as an error. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it who are foreigners, right? So I'm not sure why they are not rectifying this simple, I would think, a very simple software process. But imagine if this is not done for us, how could it be possible for foreigners that's coming in from abroad who have no WeChat, who have no app, nothing? So I think this is the main thing that is, I think, preventing so-called the China opening. But like you said, the most important people that needs to come in right now are the relatives, the families, and business people. Because I look at the area that I'm been doing business. It's a ghost town. The train station that goes from the Chongqing straight to Hong Kong, that station is done. It's ghost. It's been 2.5 years without nothing. The McDonald's is closed. Everything is closed. And you can see that around that area and other areas, the businesses are closed. So business people need to come back in. But I'm not too sure how that goes, because with Hong Kong opening up, no more quarantine. We got to see what Hong Kong happens first. Over to you, Alex.
Yeah. And this is good that we're getting into this dialogue, and we're going to go back and forth on this. And you're a pretty bright guy, Noel. there's a couple of things that I want to, clarify on what you said. That yes, some of these systems aren't, we'll call seamless at the moment, but they never were seamless as a international tourist coming to China to begin with. Even getting a SIM card for your mobile phone is always a challenge when you're arriving in the country. But let's not underestimate the speed on how fast China can get ready for this. I'm sure they're very aware of it. I'm sure they're very aware that there's an issue with their applications only working for the mainlanders. But that's what their main focus is, the mainlanders. Now, as a foreigner that came to this country, I came in here with a mobile with a Thai phone number. It was a little bit of a tricky situation to get there, but I got there. That was a few years ago. Now, my wife arrived. I saw her process coming through when she arrived. Her first destination was Chengdu. Everybody when she got the visa, it was a very straightforward how to install it on your phone, how to get the green code, and it was an education process. No different than most other countries that tried and failed during this process. Thailand was an absolute disaster. And there's something I want to clarify with you, Noel. To my understanding, you have been in China since COVID, right?
Yep.
You've never left.
Nope.
Take it from me, a guy that just got back from China to Thailand on January the 2nd, 2020. 3 weeks later, we get a report that, the virus was discovered. I spent almost 2 years outside of China in a country that I am absolutely speechless. You saw my video at the Thailand airport when I came back to China. Absolute ghost town. If you think certain districts of Hong Kong have been affected, I understand that. Sure, business has been affected there. But in countries around the world, people are hurting massively, okay? I was, in my live streams from Thailand, I would walk down the street and almost 90% of the businesses, after being closed, Thailand went through a horrific lockdown, just like many countries went through a horrific lockdown with no strategy at all. We're talking major companies that lost business, major hotels that lost business, the private businessmen. And Thailand is a very good example, very tourism country, 60 million plus tourists a year, gone, okay? They closed their nightclubs, their bars, their pubs. Almost no alcohol could be served in the kingdom of Thailand for almost 2 years, okay? Until recently. Then they tried to bring in a measure. You can come back, but you must quarantine. Okay. They did have a really interesting quarantine method. If you wanted to come back into the country, you could pay for it at whatever hotel you wanted to choose, but it worked to get people in safely. But the rollout of the vaccination, horrific. The contact tracing apps, no one cared. Serious. I was there for 18 months. No one cared. No one asked. You could get on a train, a bus, didn't matter. No one cared to ask you for the apps. Go into the shopping mall? No one cared. Nobody used it. Here in China, coming from Chengdu, from Chongqing to Chengdu, which is only an hour and 20 minutes by high-speed rail, not a chance. Okay. I got onto the train. Of course, my health code was checked. I'm on the train. The announcements in English and Chinese, of course, saying, okay, when you arrive at Chengdu, and immediately by SMS, download the health app for the Sichuan province. So I downloaded the health app, popped up in English, filled out the form, got off the train into a new city. I thought, okay, everything's good. Then I got through the exit, lots of staff on there to help me, lots of staff. And I was thinking the whole time I was walking off that train, wait a minute, this could work. This could work. Even fully opened, this could work. Got out the train, to my surprise, just before leaving the last exit of the train station, NAT COVID test free was waiting for me. Here we are, sir. So if you're a person that is anti-test or anti-application, or China's not the place for you, I guess. But for us in China, there is a lot to be said about what the health authorities do here. They save lives. Imagine, Noel, if this country of 1.5 billion just let it rip. Compare the numbers to the US. 6 million people in China would be dead. 800 million would be infected by COVID, and all hell would break loose. You can't do that, and they don't do that. Anyway, fire away, sir.
Lots of points there, Alex. I'd like to talk on the point about the test and vaccines. So again, I think this age of social media and information that you get online, you start to realize that as a child back 30, 40 years ago, when you were watching the TV and you were watching the news, you thought that is what it is. That is the facts. The newscaster is telling me exactly what is going on. And then now, fast forward 40 years later, you know, that person's talking rubbish. I can prove it. You know, I got so many things to prove. It's just do some research yourself. So we have people who are able to think critically about certain things, and then we can start to question the narrative. But majority of the people don't have the time nor the interest to do such things, which is why I'm still adamant that for all the channels that is trying to preach the facts to the unknowing population, the unknowing population doesn't want to know, because they are receptive to what they feel or learn or know around their environment only, and full stop. They're not prepared to go and search, because there's no need, because they live their lives. Not everybody is a traveler. Not everybody is a businessman. Many people are, you know, just trying to work hard, put food on the table for the family, and that's it. You know, there's no time to go online and check this and check that. They just take what is told to them, and that's it. So why do I say this? Because these are all good people, right? They are good people, and they are good people that I know who are still resistant to getting a vaccine. Not to mention even like getting tests, right? But they are good people. They just, I don't know. It's just that the fact that us humans is a whole spectrum of different personalities and, you know, train of thought and mindset. That is what we need to handle, because it is so vast. There is no one trick for everybody. You can't. If you do that, then you are authoritative. If I have to say that you have to follow my facts, even if it's facts, you are being authoritative. You even question now, like if you are in the school, why am I being told to learn this in the school? So it never ends. Once you open the Pandora's box, it never ends. I'm actually digressing, right? But to get back to the thing, yeah, you mentioned all those things, and I believe that if the Chinese government, as able as they are, and again, any system is only as good as the people that runs it. And we know that not everybody is Einstein. So when you mention about the issues you experience in Thailand, nobody cares. Maybe because they are not equipped, they are not educated, they're not trained to know what to do. Similarly, with the fiasco in Shanghai and in various pockets around China, the people, are they really that, you know, knowledgeable? Is the knowledge passed on properly? Are the instructions given to these people? Mistakes happen, right? Mistakes happen. You have seen it all. You have seen, for all the bad things that China has been captured on film to show to the world, there's an explanation for it, and there is an action taken for this thing that happened, which nobody knows. They only know that the part where, oh, you look at that, it's screwed up. Look at people suffering, but they don't know the corrective measures that was then implemented. Alex.
Well, yeah, that's a lot. You know, no, I kind of agree with you. For me, I was venting my frustration on Thailand. Thailand had a shot here. They really did have a shot. They had a window. They had such low cases, okay, low cases for a long time. And I think they just said, wait a minute, I think we got this. We're okay. You know, the cases are low. And they had this window. Now, whether you agree with vaccinations or don't agree with vaccinations, that's up to the person to decide. But they had a window to vaccinate their people, and they didn't do it, and they blew it. And it was catastrophic. And my hat and my hand on my heart has to go to the Chinese. At the time when I was in Thailand, and I think the viewers know this, it's very clear. As a Canadian, I went to my embassy in Canada, pardon me, in my embassy in Thailand. And I said, listen, guys, vaccination, you know, I'm over 50. What's going on? I want to know. Because at the time, you don't know the information that was coming out. It was pretty scary. It's like, if I got it, you know, and at the time, if you have any respiratory problems or things like that, dealt with asthma, you know, my mother had COPD, you just didn't know these, you know, if you got it, is it 50-50? I can tell you at the time, a couple of years ago, a lot of people, they weren't fans of getting it. Now that most people get it, they're dealing with it relatively well. And the fear is not as heavy, but still, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't want to get it ever in China. And I'm one of them. I've never had it as well. So while I was sitting there in Thailand, I was on 8 waiting lists. And guess what? It's the 5th of October, 2022. I'm still on every one of those waiting lists. They never contacted me. They never got back to me. They never communicated with me. My own embassy said, well, I don't know, go to a Thailand hospital. I said, you guys got to be kidding. And I did go to the Thai hospital. Now, this is where I changed the course of this conversation. When I went there, I was told, sorry, sir, you're not a Thai national. And that really started to change the way I was thinking about this. So they said that. They said it. There's no doubt about it. And that wasn't one time or 2 times or 3 times. It was, sorry, sir, unless you are a diabetic over the age of 80, you're not Thai national. No, not happening. So I thought, well, what am I going to do here? I looked around. I had a job offer in China. I had an employment letter.
Embassy. Can I hear you?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh,
So
yeah.
So I saw this press release come from the Chinese embassy saying, for all the Chinese in Thailand, we've imported vaccinations for you. And I thought, well, I have a letter of employment from China. Let's see. I went to the hospital. I said to the lady, listen, is it possible I can get vaccinated? And she said, well, I'm going to have to make some calls, but we have an allocation for the amount of people living or we have recorded here in China. We're vaccinating our citizens. And this was happening in many countries all around the world. Chinese were doing it. So I gave her the letter and I said, you know, you're my only hope, but if you can do it, amazing. I'm willing to pay for it, of course. And I kind of left it at that. And 2 days later, she called me and she says, Alex, we have a time allocation, 5 o'clock Thursday. That's tomorrow. From 5 to 5:30, you need to be here. That person that had that appointment did leave the country. We have an allocation for you. Shocked. Went, got vaccinated, got the second two days later. And wow, China. So people ask me, during this whole COVID thing, why I'm so positive about China's ability to handle this. These guys were vaccinating their citizens outside of their own country. My own embassy let me down, and that's why. I mean, sure, there's going to be people on this program that may not believe in vaccination, and they're entitled to feel that way. That's fine. There's some people that may never get vaccinated, and that's fine too. If that's what you believe in and those are your beliefs, China's not forcing anybody in here to be vaccinated. They're not coming around saying you got to be vaccinated with trucks around the neighborhood with big blowhorns on top. No. But what they are doing is they're just going along with the science and saying, this is the odds. If you do get COVID, this is what could happen. If you're an elderly person, it's going to be in your age frame that you have a risk of getting very sick. In Canada, I mean, I got an 80-year-old mother. Do I want her getting COVID, or could vaccination give her a shot? I think at that delicate age, and a lady that has COPD, which is a respiratory issue, I think it was a good situation. Knock on wood that my mom is still healthy and has not been able or has not gotten COVID. So yeah, it's interesting. I just want to mention a couple of people that have joined the program. Of course, guys, I'm not in the studio of iChongqing, but we are here. I'm in Chengdu, and Noel Lee is in an undisclosed location in in China. He can announce it. He can disclose it if he wants. But I just want to say a big shout out to some few people. JK. Great to see you here. Nice to see you. Come pop into my channel once in a while if you can. We communicated while we were in quarantine together. Liang is in the house. Hang, of course, is creating havoc in the chat group. That's great. Wu Jiao, good to see you here as well. Thanks for checking in from Shenzhen. Kevin was in here earlier, and Eric, fantastic. Great to see you. Back over to you, Noel.
Yeah, the thing about COVID is that I always ask the same question, Alex. I'm a football fan, and I always ask, you're seeing packed stadiums in Europe, packed stadiums, but you don't hear like people are like getting the virus now and falling severely ill. So in that sense, people think that it's over. COVID is over. And again, it only hits you if, knock on wood, you get it. Otherwise, you will never experience it. I mean, I'm in China, and I see disastrous car accidents sometimes in those videos, which I really don't like to see, but it happens, right? But when we are driving, we're okay because we have never gotten into that situation. And of course, we don't want to get into that situation, right? So similar with COVID, and of course, I think when people use the example of traffic accidents killing people, you don't ban cars. That's just silly. All right. That's just silly. But getting back to the COVID thing, the thing about that is that there is scientifically proven that there is long COVID. And what scares me the most is the brain shrinkage, which is already proven as well. These are not myths. These are not scare tactics. But what troubles me again is when you have prominent Western presenters and celebrities who comes on to the camera and say, I got COVID, I got it again, I got it 3 times, I'm all good. So it's a hoax, right? So I mean, when you have people telling the audience this, then it strengthens the fact that China bad, West good. It's a hoax. So these are the things that we're dealing with every day. But of course, China is about the science, and the science backs it up. There is no fun getting the COVID. Again, now it has gotten milder. That is also facts. But there's 1,000 mutations of the virus. All right, there's been 1,000 mutations. The prominent ones are the Omicron I think it's Alpha, Beta, Delta, and Omicron, right? So these are the ones that still kind of serious in that sense. Otherwise, China wouldn't be making vaccines specifically to counter those variants. So until we get past that final line, the enemy, right? The enemy softened. First, it came out really strong, and then we fought it, right? The enemy retreated. It broke down, became another variant, and then there's a final variant before it becomes just like the flu. But until then, it is not just like the flu. All right. But on the flip side, again, Alex, before I hand it over to you, my country, Singapore, had no choice but to live with COVID. No choice, right? But again, a developed country like Singapore has placed in its healthcare system the vaccines, the healthcare for the people who got COVID, and it seems to work out so far. But after the F1 race that just happened over the weekend, again, we are seeing 7,000 cases. People might say, oh, it's just cases. Again, we don't know. Alex, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Singapore is very interesting. I mean, they hit it hard a few times, and then they went through some strict lockdowns again. I mean, they got a lot of big events. This is going to be difficult, guys. This is going to be difficult. What is the new normal now? Is it normal to see stadiums packed? I don't know. I mean, I would like to, move on from this as well, but we have to move on in a responsible way. And it's an extremely difficult position, but, the world has seen pandemics before. If you are wanting a little bit of a history lesson, just go back and look on YouTube. Look at the Spanish flu on YouTube. Imagine that, going through that with no real contact tracing apps or anything. It just wiped out millions of people. It does come down to, responsibility of that person. The flu, just the general flu, is deadly in its own as well, Noel. And the world has managed to accept, flu symptoms. I mean, hundreds of thousands of Americans die of the flu each year. But we're getting smarter with this. We're moving forward with this. And we're learning from this. We're learning that contact tracing apps work. We're learning that a country can continue to stay open internally, domestically, with COVID. China's done a great job internally keeping open. Sure, a lot of people would love to get on an airplane and go travel, like I'm one of them. But the country itself has done really well internally. Now, there's going to be mistakes made. And I'll tell you guys right now, if you don't think authorities get held responsible for big outbreaks or mishandling of these, trust me, this happens in China. There's not one mayor in this entire country that wants to ever be blamed by not rolling out or putting in the right systems in place if there's a COVID outbreak. Chongqing is a city, a huge city of, into the 30s of millions of people, 32 or 34 million the last time I checked. And the city doesn't mess around. As soon as a couple of cases come, kaboom, they are in contact testing mode big time, okay? You're not going to get in. If you think you can get into a shopping mall, a movie theater, go for a massage, go to the bank, get on the subway, get on the monorail, the buses, not happening. And the world comes down on you and you say, wait a minute, I can't get in anywhere. Okay, I'll go for a COVID test. Yeah, free COVID test. It's pretty much, I would say there's more COVID testing locations in Chongqing than 7-Elevens in your average town, maybe on a 10-to-1 scale. That'll just give you guys an idea. If you walk outside this door here in the center of Chengdu, they're usually with blue tarps and a little bit of roped off stuff. It doesn't take long to see somebody in PPE with goggles on.
Sorry, Alex. Isn't Chengdu also just recently like on a lockdown?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, Chengdu had a very serious lockdown. And, I want to tell you how responsible these cities are. Chengdu is, well, we'll call it a sister city or a brother city of Chongqing. Chongqing used to be part of the Sichuan province here. And now Chongqing is its own municipality. And Chengdu is the capital of the Sichuan province. Sorry, I've got a lot of these provinces on my mind here today because I'm looking at where I want to travel next. So this city has a population. Yeah. There you go. This city has a population of over 20 million, and it went into a lockdown mode, a pretty serious one, a few weeks back, and they stayed locked down. Now they've come out of it. And the locals here, they know that it's delicate for them to travel outbound. So most locals still are not going to travel outbound, even though the city's fully open, even though it's National Day holidays. Most people are saying, you know what, we can take it. We're not going to travel out. And the health code is probably not on their side. It could most arguably be green, but it might be amber, which means they could still go, but some additional testing and stuff like that. So being here, going back to Chongqing, I've been tested every day, free. I'm going to be going back to Chongqing and, showing my health code. But even the work that I was at, the iChongqing group, they made sure that everybody that was going away during these holidays, that they said, could you please notify that you're going away? And it would need approval. And I can understand that. Now, that's just one organization of many companies in Chongqing. Most of my friends who work for a lot of companies, they said, well, their company said, we prefer you don't travel. Or if you travel, Sichuan province is okay, but Sanya down to, the south of China, where the weather's really nice, Shenzhen, Guangzhou area, no. So it's not because so it's kind of not telling people that they can't do a thing, but just kind of saying, is it necessary? Do you have to? And I would say that most people, once again, don't want to get COVID and following the line. But, this comes again on when is this country going to open? I still think that this meeting that's coming up here on the 16th of October, this is a pretty big meeting. It's a historic meeting. And I think all eyes around the world are going to be on this. This is 11 days from now. This is big time stuff, guys.
Yeah.
This is the next 5-year planning of a country that, has got a massive population. I was reading a staggering statistic today. A staggering statistic. Mm-hmm. Do you know that over 49,000 Chinese babies are born a day? Over 2,000 an hour are born in this country? Isn't that a staggering number? I mean, more babies are born in one day in this country. Yeah. Yeah. But I really think that the 16th, we're going to get a clear message, which we've always had a clear message on what's going on the 16th. That's why I'm going to be ramping up the live streams. We're going to do one on the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, 19th, 28th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. We're going to be doing 7 back-to-backs because every day there's going to be an absolute plethora of information coming out. And I mean, this is a 5-year. This is China's 5-year plan. That's how they do things. And this is big. We're talking big budgets, big money. We're not talking, the Congress, the Senate meeting in the United States, sending $20 billion to Ukraine, getting bipartisan voting. Money goes out the door. Even though they can't have clean drinking water in Flint, Michigan, they'll send $20 million to the Ukraine.
Not to mention the homeless.
The homeless is a completely other thing. That it's funny you mentioned the homeless. I was chatting with someone here the other day in Chongqing, and I said to them, is there someone that you can put me in touch with that I can talk to about the homeless people in Chongqing? And they said, well, we don't really have, the government has a mandate that no one is homeless. Most people are given a home with shelter and or a fixed amount of money. Now, I got to tell you guys, you're going to hear these people that said, you know, BS, Alex. BS with a capital B and a capital S. Sorry, guys, I've been in Chongqing for over a year now. I've walked every street you can imagine. If there's a person that maybe is picking through garbage, I'll tell you, within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, a Chinese national will go up to them, ask them do they need something, do they need help, or even get the local authorities. Now, here's how it works. If you're wondering how mega cities work, and this is important also on how China opens. You might think, oh, China is just going to open the country and tell all the mayors, okay, guys, we're open. China's unique. In the cities, you have, of course, we'll call it the municipality government. I'm going to use the Western terms, okay? So we'll use the terms, you have the federal government, you have a provincial government, then you have the municipal government. Okay, well, and that's why this 5-year plan is huge too, because budgets are involved all the way down. So if you look at Chongqing, you got 34 million people. Well, I live in a district called Yubei, and in that district, 3.7 million people live. Now, inside Yubei, they will allocate certain zones in, that district or counties or whatever they call them. We have Wulong County. I think you were in one of the counties.
Yes,
when
Wulong,
you visited there. Wulong, fantastic, beautiful. So we'll call it Yubei, for example. And the mayor of Yubei will then allocate certain streets, certain sections to be then controlled by the community. I'll call it community leader. If I got that name wrong, I'm sorry, but we'll call it community leader. And that community leader then has its own, we'll call it not police, but its own people that actually care. Will drive around, and if scooters are not parked properly, they'll straighten them out. If plants are dying in the city plants, they will call the authorities to come water the plants. If the road sign's been knocked down or a traffic light's out, or if there's a person picking garbage, the community leader will know and dispatch that information electronically back to the head of the municipality, and those things get fixed.
Yeah.
They get fixed. If there's a pothole out the street of my, it was funny. There was a pothole out front of, and pothole for all you guys, maybe it's a Canadian term, but it's a part of the street that just gets indented. And I said to my wife, I bet you that's going to be fixed in under a week. Well, within 36 hours later, the municipality arrives, fix the pothole. You see them taking pictures. You ever wonder why Chinese are taking pictures? It's not because they want to take a picture of the pothole. They're taking a picture to go and send back to the main distribution. You guys have saw that in my Smart City video I did. And they said, okay, work order, pothole, Yubei, fixed. Done. And that's how they can allocate issues with people that are, less fortunate. But the system here is much different than it is. In Canada, you could be one paycheck away from becoming homeless. Now, people would say, yeah, but what about your family? Things are strange. I'll give you from a Westerner's standpoint. In the West, if you have a job and everything's going well, everything's good. The moment you lose the job, you're going to get family support or maybe even some government support. Definitely not enough to cover the budget or a mortgage. But then let's say you fall on hard times. Maybe you have a small substance abuse problem or something like that. And you fall through the cracks, we'll call it. Well, there's no real programs in these Western countries unless you have money. Getting a referral from a doctor to deal with substance programs is either at the cost of your loved ones or you fall through the cracks. Those cracks that you fall through are well, you pretty much become homeless, live on the streets, and become nobody. And when I show my Chinese friends some videos of tent cities, parks full of tents, homeless peoples, they say to me, but Alex, why isn't the government doing anything? Where's their families? What's happened? And I sit there and I try to explain to them, well, they're homeless, they just don't have a job. And they say, but that can't be possible. And they get the words poverty confused with homelessness. Now that's, you've been to some of these regions in China that have alleviated poverty. I mean, they have poverty alleviation programs in place that have brought hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. People are still attaching that word poverty to being homeless. It's not the same. Poverty in Canada is a lot of people that are working and have a job but still have to rely on food banks to feed their family. That's poverty. But then there's outright homelessness where you have nothing and pretty much a zero chance of getting back to reality. Do you see the point I'm getting at there, Noel?
Yeah. And I let me get your brain working there. Would anybody ever choose to be homeless? Why I'm asking this is because I've actually heard a conversation whereby somebody said that those people who are homeless, actually they chose to be homeless. Now, does that even make any sense, Alex? Are you with me?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Go on, please.
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, just incidentally, right? I'm not making this up. I just had a conversation this morning with a American in Florida, and he's telling me that he got a job offer in San Francisco, and he said, "No, I'm not moving there." I said, "Why?" The place has many homeless people. It's trash. I rather prefer it here in Florida. So there you have it from the people who are on the ground. It's not us saying that, oh, look at this, look at that. It's the people on the ground telling you what they themselves are experiencing. So
yeah, it's complicated. I mean, there are not these programs, and our society has not taught us. Yeah, I got to be very clear with you. I've seen these communities in Vancouver. Anybody that wants to do some research, just go to Google. Go to Google right now. Go to Google right now. Open a new tab in your browser. Go look up Google Street View. And this is very easy. 2 streets, cross streets in Vancouver. One's called Hastings, Hastings, and Main, Main. Hastings and Main Street. Go to Google Street View, Hastings and Main Street right now. I guarantee you'll see 4 things. Somebody's image being blurred out, taking drugs, an ambulance, a tent, and probably people laying on the street or somebody in wheelchairs or something like that.
Yeah.
And these guys are 100 meters away from police stations. And this is the issue. This is a society that has just said, well, let's just let it rip. So they've legalized marijuana, fine, whatever. They've decriminalized a lot of the, hard drugs. Now,
Right.
decriminalizing is basically a nice word from saying, well, we're not going to arrest you if you catch it with you. Vancouver is equivalent to San Francisco, or maybe even worse. It has been declared the heroin capital of North America. Okay? It is the heroin capital of North America. Now, you know what would be funny, Noel?
Yeah.
You hear of all these stories that a lot of these anti-Chinese channels love to highlight these people that have escaped the mainland. and come to America because they've escaped China because of the horror stories. Well, I'll tell you what my interview would be like if somebody interviewed me from the Western media. Well, guys, I had my car burned down. I was broken into 3 times. I had people ransack my girlfriend's car. I heard gunshots. My house was cleaned out twice from burglary. There was drugs everywhere. I feared for my life, and I escaped Canada. You know what? That's a true story. I left Canada because my house was broken into. My car was set on fire. There was drugs everywhere, all over that country, all over the city, all over the city. They still are. And wow, why isn't my story making big headlines? Sounds like it's
there's something that's controlling the flow of information. And Alex, let's put it this way, right? Yes, we mentioned about those anti-China channels, laser focus on anything anti-China. Here we are trying to promote the good of China, laser focus on that. But you know, the real reality is like somewhere in the middle. You know, because even here we know it's not perfect, but we don't want to emphasize on the non-perfect stuff because we're trying to promote good, right? We're trying to censor the bad because the bad should be taken care of. The bad, I mean, it's just life, right? You don't want to keep hammering on the wrong, right? You want to keep preaching the good. I mean, that's what the churches do, right? That's what, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but that's what teachings is. You don't teach bad, you teach good, and you say what's bad. But in actual fact, this whole thing is already a censorship for those who are, you know, saying, oh, you guys are just censoring people, you guys are just, but that's part of life. You don't want to introduce bad, you want to eliminate bad. If I could, again, I would eliminate smoking because it's bad. I don't see any value in smoking, apart from being cool in the movies. And again, the movies thing and all these things, I mean, I'm just digressing. You look at the TikToks in the States. You have girls just doing a dance, you know, dressing a little bit provocative, right? And that's the TikTok in the West. But you look at the TikTok in China, it's about, oh, how did this guy do this? It's so efficient. The factory worker doing efficient stuff. The guy painting, you know, with a brush in nowhere, and then becomes a piece of art, and just strange things that boggles the mind, that wow, that creates the wow. But I don't get wow. I wow at the lady who was doing the thing, but is that what's going on? Is that what's being taught? You know, I mean, what is being shown of that particular place is always a beacon. It's an ambassador of the population or of that place, right? For example, if you go to Disneyland, you will see Mickey Mouse. When you see Mickey Mouse, you know, oh, Disneyland, right? So when you see this kind of TikTok, then you know that that's what the West. But again, not everything of the West is like that. We can understand that. We can understand that this is just something that we can filter out or censor if we want to, but it's not being done by the people that is governing that society. So be it. That's their freedom. But we know we can deliberate, and we know that that's not a indication of the entire population. But on the other end of the spectrum, when they see something over here and oh, that's it, these are guys, they can't have that capacity to say, oh, okay, we see that, but we don't think that that's a representation of the entire population. And I think that's the main issue here.
Well, that's a lot to unpack. And, you know, I want to unpack a little bit more on that. There are people in the content creative, we'll call it, I don't even want to call these people content
just
creators.
For views.
I don't have a word for the individuals. But let's say there are people out here that are selling anti-Chinese, anti-Asian hate. for a living. They're making an absolute living on this. Tens of thousands of dollars, using their influence to millions of subscriber base that they have. I'm going to tell you right now, hate is not the road to success. The gates to hate eventually close. So if you are a content creator out there thinking that it's great every Monday or every Friday to come up with content about hating a certain race or hating a certain nation, time is going to be ticking for you. It's not going to be me that's going to shut you down, but eventually people are going to wake up and realize that what you're doing or what these individuals are doing are causing havoc and hate around the world. I've seen videos that people have made saying, you know, and I think even somebody that's viewing us tonight made a very interesting comparison. If you just take 1% of those subscriber bases, that maybe of that 1% of 1 million people that may have a mental health disorder have been guided by these individuals to hate a certain race or hate a certain culture or to hate a certain nationality, that is a chemical reaction that will definitely backfire. And all arrows are going to point back to those individuals or those collaborators that have worked together over the years that have come down hard on China. They're coming for you. It's not me. It's not the Noel Lees. It's not the Alex at Reporterfy's. You are basically going to be stabbing a dagger into your own heart, because what you're doing as the content creator, spreading so much hate across the world on a nation that has helped build your country in the last 20 years. Now, people might say, what are you talking about, Alex? Hey, you just got to walk to the main street of Chengdu here and see all the North American companies here. These companies, their bottom lines, whether it's 20 or 30% of the revenue, is coming from China to keep those companies alive as well. And don't think for a moment that Chinese are not blessed from selling their products to North Americans. They are, but they are also one of the largest consumer bases coming up in the world. And just to add to that, there are even people getting visas in other countries as broadcasters to broadcast hate. You know who you are. You know who I'm talking about. Not going to say names, but time is ticking, and you either change your tune or the lights will come out very quick on you. And my blood boils when I see that so many individuals spew so much hate out into these communities. They don't realize the damage that they're doing to these people. I interviewed a student earlier, about 4 months ago, and I asked her, how was your experience in North America? She named a channel to me. She named a channel. Do you know this channel? Yeah, I know this channel. She says, I'm terrified. People hate me in my university because they watch these channels out there. I can tell you something. As a vlogger, even if I went back to Canada, sure, I would show the good and bad. I would have an opinion, but I definitely would not on a weekly basis spew hate and try to bring hatred to, either whether it's my country or any other country. I have integrity, Noel, and responsibility. On my channel, Reporterfy Media, I have 116,000 people watch me.
Alex, as the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. And before the dawn of the internet and social media, the world, as bad as it was, is still a better place than today, right? And we all know that we have to learn from history, and that's the reason why the internet exists. The internet, I think, is supposed to exist to bring people closer, to let people get into the ability to dig into history, real history, not fabricated ones, right? We know there's fabricated history even on credible sites, right? I mean, you go and Google Wikipedia and you can see that a certain Xinjiang is actually called East Turkestan. That confuses people, right? So
yes, but Noel, I want to add to that.
Yeah.
When people start using that terminology, Okay, that's a very serious problem here in China. You have to go back into the history books and look at what attacks were happening. And then the audacity of these people to bring on these people that speak out for organizations that are funded and directly linked to terrorist organizations onto their show and say, well, we embrace this to be part of this again. That is very scary, Noel. That is way above and beyond our pay grade as content creators. You are talking about supporting people that are asking for separation at any cost of actually killing lives. Some of the, and I'm not going to go down to the channels and talk about the channels and get into the channels. I don't want nothing to do with these individuals. I don't even want to see these individuals. But they've had separatists on their channel. They've said in solidarity, we support these movements. No, that's not about, there's going to be people out there say, well, maybe they are nice to Chinese people. Maybe they have a problem with the government. Sorry, guys. That argument went out the door, 400 videos ago. A common sense person can see how these people talk about Chinese people, talk about Chinese society, target certain people, target individuals, and then bring people that have direct links to terrorist organizations on their shows? What?
So, Alex, let's thank Trevor Norman there for that super chat. Want to bring that up on screen, and you want to read that?
Well, thank you for the contribution, Trevor. Yes, Trevor, go ahead, Noel. You take it away.
Yeah, try reporting the anti-China content on YouTube, and it takes about 2 or 3 goes. Report one that tells the truth. It only takes 1 go. Thank you, Trevor, for that super chat. So yeah, like I was saying, ignorance is bliss. Back in the day when, we didn't have this information flow, I truly believe that the world was a better place, even though there were atrocities happening in the world. But as part of evolution, I believe in evolution, and what we're experiencing right now is evolution, right? Because we are getting there. We're getting there with information. We're getting there with technology. It's kind of scary also, because if you look at all those things like autonomous cars and all these things, in the future, it might be a case of us just not having to worry too much, and it becomes really authoritative. I don't know, but that's another topic. But like I was saying, a better place. When I was, before coming onto YouTube, I was just a common Singaporean guy in Singapore who was in Hong Kong doing his thing, and I had no idea about world affairs. Everything only came to like liberation when I experienced the Hong Kong protests, and then from then I sort of like, no way, it couldn't be more than that. But indeed, the facts tells you that the science and the facts tells you that it is what it is, and that's when you cannot deny the facts. If you deny it, there's something wrong with you, something wrong with me, right? It's the facts. And you can, even right now to this day, we're looking at all these Nord Stream sabotage. Just follow the money, follow the trails. You can only connect the dots looking backwards, as the late Steve Jobs said. So, if you still can't connect the dots, if you still can't identify the facts, then there's really that much we can do. There's not much.
It's crazy. And it's can you hear me okay? Noel, can you hear me fine?
Good. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
So this is coming not only from content creators, but this is also coming from people that were part of the U.S. government not too long ago. Secretary of State, guys, I want to play this video, or actually I'm going to play this voice note for you today. I sent it to Cyrus Jansen. I said, Cyrus, this is golden for a video for you. Okay. Listen to this, guys. This was the Secretary of the State for the United States of America, who traveled the world who did meet Chinese officials, probably put on a nice face saying, hey, it's great to meet you. And I can tell you, any Chinese official or party members that you have ever met, extremely intelligent people. There's 93 million of them. And when people say, well, the Communist Party doesn't speak for China, well, let's do the mathematics there. 93 million party members, which it's not easy to become a party member. You got to be extremely intelligent. Once you become a party member, well, there's probably a pretty good possibility you're married. So let's take that figure and double it. Let's call it 180 million now. Now, if you got kids, let's bring that figure up to 300 to 400 million. And your kids, or you have grandparents, mother and father, or both families, you bring that up to about 650 million. And of the mothers and fathers, if there's a great grandmother or an auntie or an uncle involved, you pretty much got a nation of party members that do speak for the entire country. But America and a lot of these collective Wests, they just can't understand. If they think China is going to fail, if they think China is this nasty company or country, I keep calling it a company, it kind of is run like a company, but if they think China is going to fail or self-destruct, then let it self-destruct. Let it self-destruct. If you think it's going to crumble to the ground, which you know, Mr. Chang's been naming it for about 20 years, then
Collapse
let it
in 28 days.
Yeah, just let it sink to the ground. If that's what you think, get on with your life, get on with your country. Who cares? But if the Chinese are happy and this is what they like, but let me play this to you. This guy was the Secretary of State. Now, he's resorted to making scary scripted videos. You got to watch this video after. You kind of wonder if Mike Pompeo was captured by the Taliban to make this video. He looks very scared reading a teleprompter. And he's talking negative about China. But then there's a reason why he rolls into Taiwan to make speeches, because he's sanctioned. And that means that Mr. Pompeo cannot do any of his nice speeches to any companies that have connections with China, which is pretty much every Fortune 500 company in the United States. Let me play this to you guys, the audience. I want to hear you guys' feedback. Here we go. Can you hear that okay?
Hello, Mike Pompeo here. Today I want to talk about how the CCP tries to divide Americans based on race and how it lies to the world about the United States of America. I try not to go on social media too much, but during the Trump administration, I'd check Twitter at least once a day. Back then it was a good way to see if I still had a job. Of course, Twitter's not allowed in China, but the CCP propagandists use it, and they subject the Chinese people to a lot of the same lies Americans see every day from Twitter mobs. The worst lie they tell is that America is somehow a racist country. That is the exact opposite of the truth. America is the only country in the world founded on the idea that all humans are treated and created equally.
Okay, so you guys have just heard the first part of that.
So much falsehood in that opening statement.
Yeah, I could probably go. I could probably do.
Is there like a current video, current narrative?
Oh yeah, and let me. Yeah, current? I'll give you one even earlier. How was the sound on that? Could you hear that one? Okay.
Some said it's loud, but it was very clear for me.
Loud. Okay, I'll pull it back a little bit from the mic, and I'll play this second part for you.
Okay.
But in the second part, it says he's holding a coffee mug of Winnie the Pooh. He thinks he's funny.
Oh.
He really thinks he's funny doing that. I mean, very classy, Mike. I mean, okay. All right. Well, here we go. Here's part two. And he's saying the Chinese Communist Party does not represent the Chinese people. From Mike Pompeo. Here you go.
Welcome to the Hudson Institute's China Center. I'm Mike Pompeo, 70th U.S. Secretary of State, and now chairman of the advisory board of the new center. As you can imagine, there's a lot more job security in this gig than the one in my last one. And the coffee here is a lot better than it was at Foggy Bottom as well. Our goal with these videos is pretty simple: to talk directly to the Chinese people about U.S.-China relations And that's what we'll start doing with this series over the next few months. And then we'll keep it up. There's a reason we're doing this. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't represent the Chinese people. It's that simple. The CCP is a one-party, totalitarian, political organization committed to a foreign, anti-Chinese ideology. It started out as a group of brutal, radical extremists. And frankly, not much has changed. The worst mass murder in history was Mao. His victims, mostly Chinese. The same is true of Deng Xiaoping, who murdered pro-democracy protesters in Tiananmen Square. Xi Jinping continues that communist legacy even today. There is no bigger enemy for the CCP than you, the Chinese people. I know this is true because all my interactions with the CCP leaders convince me that what the CCP truly cares about is maintaining their stranglehold over the Chinese people. That's it. That is their paramount interest. The CCP hates the United States because they're paranoid that the Chinese people will be inspired by the example of American freedom, the world's oldest and most influential democracy. I've gotten to know the work of brave Chinese freedom fighters like Cardinal Zen, Jimmy Lai from Hong Kong, and countless others who try to hold the regime accountable. There are a lot of heroes, in small ways and big, throughout China. They're the people who worship every day in secret houses, who commemorate Tiananmen Square, and who every day refuse to believe the CCP's lies. But of course, the worst lie the CCP tells is that it speaks on behalf of China and of Chinese civilization. And I think the CCP knows it's a lie. If Beijing thought it represented the Chinese people, it wouldn't spend more on domestic repression and surveillance than it does on external defense. If the CCP represented the Chinese people, it would hold a free and fair election tomorrow. But it won't. The so-called People's Republic seems to have a problem with its own people.
Man, tell me if that's not propaganda. Isn't that propaganda in itself? That's I mean, okay, let's look at it this way, Alex. The United States is not a child who's complaining to the mother about the kid who's bullying him. The United States is a powerful nation, right? World's biggest economy. Now, is there anything higher than that? Shouldn't the highest people in the land be able to conduct real diplomatic meetings with your counterpart to do diplomatic things? And that's what, as a child, when I was seeing the news, so and so president came to this country and then they conducted bilateral ties and all these things. Isn't that what what's all about? But now we know that all these meetings are all the real BS. It's just there for a show, a photo op, and then behind the scenes, okay, just follow the instructions, right? So I mean, even Singapore, we knew that the CIA came in to try to influence the Lee Kuan Yew administration, right? And so it's all go check it out on YouTube. It's all there, right? I'm not making this thing up. And if anyone would listen to what Mr. Pompeo just said and take him seriously, then I think that person has a problem.
This video, people are asking me the name of this video. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Okay. Oh, History Channel?
No, the Hudson Institute.
Oh, Hudson. Okay.
The Chinese Communist Party does not represent Chinese people.
Oh, that's
the Hudson Institute. Anyway, he's paid for the Hudson Institute now. He's being paid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is just a mind wreck when you hear that video.
But you see, for the uninitiated, if you listen to that for the first time, and this guy is a former secretary of whatever, right? So you would probably take him seriously if you were the uninitiated listening to this for the first time. You always look up to the people who are in office or was in office saying something, and that's the power it has for the uninitiated, for the people who are just there to listen and not going to conduct a critical thinking session and try to challenge or try to like, wait a minute, if you are saying this, then let me go check out if it's true. See? So I think that's the main problem. You with me, Alex?
Yeah,
Alex?
yeah, I'm just
Okay.
giving you the floor, Noel.
All right. So I'd like to say hi to Santan, who's here. And I think I'll address a comment by Nicole earlier that she's glad that this guy is out of office, and so was the previous administration. But Nicole, whether the previous administration is out, look at this administration or the next administration, it doesn't end. There is no change. When Obama said change, I literally believed in him back when I was a fool, right? I was a fool back then. I thought that, oh, this is gonna be change. But after all the bombs and everything, it's all the facts, right? There is no change. The only change, said to say, would be a revolting change. And that's what the people are trying to encourage the people of China to revolt against the CCP so that there is change. But who wants to change things that's going well, right? You want to change things that's not going well. Look at your own land and see what's not going well and revolt against that. That should be the real thing, and not, you can't even handle your own business and you're trying to handle other people's business. And that is unfortunately the sad truth that's happening and is happening and will continue to happen unless there is a revolting change.
I agree completely. Just want to say thank you again to Traveler Norman for the nice contribution to Noel's channel. Thank you very much for that. And nice to see Suntan come in. Hey, great to see you here, and great to see some new names here today. I just want to let you guys know that I'm in the remote studio here on the road. I will be back in Chongqing on Friday. And we do have some more news and updates on the studio. We're waiting for just a couple more pieces of hardware, a few more pieces of furniture. I would say a nice carpet, a couple of chairs, and then that considerable investment will be back and ready to rock and roll for the Let's Talk China show, which is going to premiere. We're hoping that everything's going to be there within a few weeks for the Let's Talk China show, and we'll have a really nice liftoff for that show. That's going to be a weekly or bi-weekly show, and we're going to try to eventually make that one of the most watched shows coming out of China for the international market. The other thing that I'm going to be doing from the week of the 16th to the 23rd here, as you know, that's the very important meeting that I think all of you should earmark that in your calendar. We're going to be on location here talking about the important part, the important 20th Congress that's going on in Beijing. There are going to be so much media attention on that. That's a 5-year plan that's going to be introduced to the world, and that could really tell us when is China open. Well, Noel, we're going to wrap it up here in the next couple of minutes. I'm going to give you the floor, and when you're done, I'm going to do some closing remarks, but I want to say thank you so much for everybody. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below if you're new to our channels, whether it's Reporterfy Media, Noel Lee, or iChongqing, who I do very many collaborations with. Don't forget to subscribe to these channels. I'm going to give the floor to Noel for a couple minutes. When he's done, I'm going to say my goodbyes. I'm not going to shut down the video feed after the program. I'm going to leave it open for 1 or 2, maybe 3 minutes while you guys finish off your conversations in the sidebars there. Okay, Noel, you take it away, sir.
Well, thanks, Alex, once again for this live stream opportunity. It's great always to be with you in a stream, in conversation. I'd like to just give a quick update to my viewers of my channel, whom I've actually sort of neglected because I had been, adjusting to life after almost exiting China back early this year, before Chinese New Year. I was really on the way out, and fortunately, I managed to stay in China, which is a good thing. I just haven't been able to get myself back into the gist of making videos, firstly, because of the pandemic that's still ongoing, and that actually restricted travel opportunities. So that is one thing that actually prevented me from doing videos that shows you more about China. In fact, I was planning to do an anniversary trip back to Xinjiang just to touch on some areas and probably do it myself this time instead of with somebody else, so that it's really independent. But that opportunity didn't come because after my visa situation was resolved, I basically had to settle down here. So that prevented me from making that anniversary trip to Xinjiang in April. And soon May, June, July came, and then I was just busy again doing my stuff. And I recently had a chance to go on a short 1 week trip to the Greater Bay Area, courtesy of GD Today. And I'm actually trying to put up one video that summarizes my entire trip. Most of you have actually seen me speak at that final the end of the trip, where we were invited for actually a live stream, and where my speech was dubbed in Chinese, and that's actually in my channel. You can check it out. All right. Although again, it's dubbed in Chinese. There is no English version. But anyway, I would really want to get back to making some videos, but I want to just also sort of take some time to actually think about what my channel is all about, because initially, I set out to try to do my part to show the side of Xinjiang that was constantly in the media for the wrong reasons. I did that, I got the viewers, but apparently after that, when I was trying to show other parts of China, the views weren't really there. I got to just sit back and let myself figure out exactly what's going on. Once I do that, hopefully I'll come back with more videos to explain my channel in the coming months, hopefully. Again, this year is very challenging for me. I had to settle down. I got lots of things to do, so I apologize for the lack of videos, but I will definitely be putting an effort to get back into the swing of things. Back to you, Alex.
All right, thanks, Noel Lee, everybody. Noel Lee here on the program today. And wow, what a fascinating time it was, guys. I'm going to see you here in the next day or two. Tomorrow, yours truly is going to be on the Duran show. I don't know if you guys have heard the Duran, but that's right. Alex from Reporterfy, iChongqing will be there with Patrick Lancaster on the program tomorrow. And wow, I'm going to leave some music for you guys to chill out, have a good time too. And you guys, be polite, be safe out there, and don't forget, we will see you guys very soon. Take care. Talk soon.